as a professor, I have taught Introduction to Women's Studies. I have helped build other community courses as well as my own. And I guess, for me, my driving force for community development as well as just like education is just wanting to have more representation, right? Being a Black woman, it was really important for me to be able to use my career and use my voice to effectuate change and to build community around positive, entertaining, as well as educational content. But then also, there's just such a wonderful feeling of like being able to help people, right? Help people get a job, help people present better, help people understand how they can be more in touch with themselves and figure out what their purpose is and what their passions are. So it's a little bit about me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a fascinating journey on how to sort of bring in positive change with your work online as well as offline.
Yeah.
I'll give,
Mm-hmm.
I'll give a brief about myself. I'm the co-founder of Yuki Community Platform, which is an all-in-one community platform for creators, brand, and businesses. We help you set up your own white label community directly on your website or an app. And primarily, if you're a course creator, that's the topic we're talking about today. You can set up different cohorts, which can be free, paid, etc. You can run subscriptions. You can have interactions like live event, do a lot of stuff with directly have a direct interaction with your users, your community members through emails, through the notifications. We can say we have to chat system in place as well. So anyone, there's a free plan, you can sort of try it out. So getting started on the topic for today, and the
Yeah.
big question is everyone has to take the baby steps, the first steps on setting up an online business and
Mm-hmm.
also setting up an online course or any kind of business online. How do you take the
Yeah.
first steps in sort of setting up business, and when is the right time to sort of bring in the community aspect?
Oh, yeah, great question. So first steps is always start from a foundation of why. Why are you doing this? What are you trying to solve? Because your course shouldn't just be another piece of content. It really needs to be solving something. So what is it that your audience that you're trying to reach? Who are they? And what do they need? And so first, I recommend people like just hand and paper and pen and like write out an outline, or if you want to save the trees, which is really important too. Type it onto your computer or your tablet or your phone and break out the different components. You can do a really quick Google search to kind of get some parameters, because it's like, should I have 20 sections, should I have 5 sections? There's some guidance out there already, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So once you kind of understand, okay, well, I want mine to be a 10 section, 5-minute per section. That way people can get through it in an hour, right? Where you want to be mindful of time. Human beings will give you 8 seconds before you're dead in their mind and they move on to something else. So you want to be mindful about, having more, I prefer more pulse type of output of content, as opposed to like, here's a course that's 5 hours long and 7 sections and doing too much. So I recommend that. But and then also, what are the action steps that you want the community that is going to be taking this or supporting this to do from this? So for instance, like if you're building a course around like career, that's a awesome space. Why? Because people are always going to be wanting a new job or wanting to figure out how to present differently or to move up in the company or to start a company, right? So career oriented content is always going to be like vitally needed. Is there a lot of competition? Absolutely. So you want to find your narrow space for what's not currently being addressed, right? We don't want to just do the same thing that's already out there, but are you saying to people, hey, build your resume that bypasses XYZ and gets you in front of the recruiter? Or is it something around, how do you ace that interview? How do you develop questions that are going to help you perform better in the interview process? Like, what is the specific thing that you're addressing? And then I would recommend, really, kind of giving yourself some deadlines and how you're going to accomplish this. Because a lot of times in life, we have a lot of great ideas, but ideas without action it's as if you should have never had the idea.
Yeah.
So, okay, I have the idea in October. When do you want to launch this course? And be mindful of the time. So here I'm in, again, I mentioned Arizona, so the United States, right? So we're going to be getting into holiday season. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, does it make sense to launch a whole new course when people are busy cutting up turkeys and wrapping up gifts? Maybe not. Maybe we start in the new year, right? Like that first year, the first week of January, right after the new year, after everyone's like, you know, in that kind of like new year, new opportunity mood, and they can jump right in, right? And you can give them a 30-day course. You know, again, it's self-paced, or if it's going to be live or a little bit of both, you have to decide kind of the direction you want to go. And then, you know, what are they going to accomplish at the end of this? How is it going to better themselves, better their business, better their life? I know that was a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was very interesting take on how to think about setting up a business online, or especially a course, and what are the important points to focus on. People just jump to just the action part of it without having any kind of strategy and sort of creating framework on how to set things up. I think it's super important to have that on paper or on digital, so whatever works. And talking about community, so do you take feedback from users from day one that this is
Oh
what
yeah,
I'm
great
about?
question.
Yeah. Or do you wait for some time for it to sort of conceptualize? Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, especially if you're trying to sell the course to your community that you already have or trying to build it, you know, a really great lead, like lead magnet, would be getting people to come in and say, hey, if you take my course for free and you give me a review or you give me feedback, that's going to give you live, like real data and real information as to how you can tweak things, how you can make it a little bit better. And then you can have the 2.0 version, right? Where you've taken in all the context of all the feedback you've gotten, you've made it that much better. The folks who you've invited to join this, they now know a little bit more about your platform. They now, if the course is somewhat good, right, they're going to be a little bit more hungry to understand what your next product is. So it's a really great way to bring people in. I know everyone always wants to start from a place of money, but sometimes there's more things than just that dollar, right? Sometimes there's the opportunity to build relationship, build trust, which then in turn can turn into money a little bit later. And if you're a fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, which I am, shout out to Gary V, he's always giving, you know, tremendous, he's a, you know, phenomenal media and content creator, and you know, just like media mogul essentially. And, you know, he's always saying like, start with free, right? Like start with getting people to like understand, who are you? Why should they trust you? What can you give for them? And then once you've made that clear, then you can always sell that. You can always add, you know, and add upon that level of trust that you've built and developed with that person or people.
Got it. To know that what is the reason people want to rally behind you, and getting them to sort of get ideas and get invested with you, I think is very important. Getting right to the sort of the questions we have in hand. So when you look at courses online, are there some ones which do stand out, which are successful for a particular reason? What might be those? So what are the top reasons the course online or business online is successful versus a competition? So what are they doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think, you know, you have to define what success means for you. I mean, obviously, objectively, if it's, you know, something monetarily and it's like, okay, this did 5 million versus this did 5,000. Yes, you can measure that way. But for your own sake, because, you know, competition or comparison is the thief of joy. I just encourage everyone to just make sure that you are in the driver's seat of what success means for you and your business, your community, what you're trying to accomplish. And so what I would say is some things that are going to make a course more successful is the amount of people that take it, right? So whether that's the free plus the paid or all free, depends on how the person's going. But it's also going to be, you know, I would also put in there as a metric for success is how impactful, how successful were the participants able to take the information they learned from that and actually did something from that, right? Because anyone can click through and watch a course or participate in a course, but if it doesn't change the audience's life or career or whatever they're trying to accomplish, I don't know if you could honestly like authentically say that was successful. So to me, I would add that in. Another thing is how I really think that content that delivers through storytelling is probably going to hit harder and resonate more with an audience than something that's just like sell, 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 sell. But if you're telling a story and you're sharing examples of not only why the information is important, but also how it gets played out. I think human beings, like psychologically, we're just more impacted through storytelling. So I think that would make a course or content more successful. And then when you, the content creator, the course creator, are selling it, right? Selling it. Are you selling it like take my course, take my course, take my course? Or, and this is something I have to constantly work on myself, tell a story, right? So if your course, say, for example, your course is around resume building, does it make sense to just say, okay, take my course and your resume will be better? No, right? But if you maybe do a little video of taking an existing resume and showing people how you can take one sentence and make it more meaningful and more impactful, that is more storytelling around your course. And then you can have and add in that language of like, want to see more, want to see the final view of this resume, join here, right? Like, and so you've given people like a little bit of a taste, a little bit of an understanding, and they see it for themselves, right? Share, don't tell. There's a difference between sharing and telling, and we have to do more sharing when it comes to content and course creation.
Got it. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So sharing and telling, so it shouldn't be a one-way communication. And what is the value a person is able to derive from a course is something we need to measure or we need to understand by talking to the users. Yes, we can move to the next question. Yeah. Yeah, I think we are hitting on the platform part. So are there any new platform, existing ones you are comfortable using or you think are most exciting in the present times? I do have a follow-up questions. I'll take it up after you sort of work on this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a podcaster, I'm actually most excited about Audible courses because why, again, like I mentioned earlier, people are busy. Woo, they're busy. And as a mother of a 15-month-old, right, like try to fit in everything is wild. So what can you do? You can give people content that is audible so that they can listen to your course and they can wash dishes or they can do laundry or they can run after their toddlers that are driving them crazy. So that's what I'm actually most excited about. I have a course with my husband that I developed on Listenable. And it's, think of it as like Audible of courses, right? So there's a plethora of courses on there that, you can listen to it. And I would encourage people to, and podcasting isn't new. Like, I know it's like hot in like the thing now, but I mean, podcasting has been around for many, many years. But what's once was old is now new. And so now that it is hot, right, you got to pay attention to kind of what's going on. How are people getting their content, consuming it? And so that is definitely like Audible learning, Audible courses, Audible content is the thing. And so I would encourage people to look at when they're developing their content, their courses, what could you do that is going to be attractive to the ear? What can you do that's going to be meaningful to listen? And it's because some content actually does deliver a little bit better if you are visually watching it. So you need to pay attention to that, especially like for something around like a resume or something like that you want to see it, right? But versus if you're going to do a course on interviewing, you don't have to watch someone talk to you about that. You could actually do that in an audible fashion, and then it could actually be more meaningful and hopefully sink in as to how to frame your questions, how to frame your answers, how to present in a way that's going to make you stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Podcast is the new thing. I think as videos sort of have consumed a lot of screen time, people want to get off and have some passive learning. So I think this is a sort of passive learning. You sort of do your stuff and you listen. And if you can sort of gain a lot of value, that's would be beneficial to them. Again, so in the short video world where we have TikTok, Are people listening to longer formats, especially in podcast? And what have you seen the effect of TikTok on video courses? Yeah.
Yeah, so TikTok, because it's short form content, right, where it's like pulse and pulses of information, I think with a course, that's a great way for you to kind of condense everything in a really fun, engaging way, maybe throw some fun music behind it. And, but, obviously be mindful of licensing and,
Yeah.
do you have the right to use the content or the music? But it's a great way to say, how to like take maybe one piece of your course and pulse it out to say like, 3 ways to do right?
Yeah.
And if you want to throw a fun dance in there, you're more likely to get people to pay attention, because it's definitely a platform of young and fun, and kind of freeing yourself of convention is kind of what I would call it. And so I think that that's a great way for you to be a little bit more engaging with your audience, a little bit
Yeah.
more fun, take the seriousness out, and like let's get to the fun of learning, let's get to the enjoyment of learning and why it's meaningful. And or even if you can like put it in a rhythmic kind of thing, like some people are like into acronyms, that's a great way to say, okay, this is the ACE of this. A is for this, C is for that, and you can like, again, have some fun and make it stand out in a way. So I think it's a platform that is probably going to continue to be used for a little bit, at least. It's hard to know sometimes with platforms, like how long, the longevity of things, because there was, there's platforms that we used to use and it's like, totally not there anymore. So you got to just, again, pay attention to the technological and content news out there in your space that's affecting you, and don't be afraid to try something new. That I would say, as I've coached, and there's some folks that are like, oh, no, I could never. And it's like, you could never because you don't want to, or could you, right? Like, no, limitations only exist in your mind, right? There are no limitations in life. So if you're standing in your way, your own way of being able to do XYZ, you need to like have self-talk, chat with yourself and understand why you're afraid of something, and just try it, because so many people have gone viral, or so many people have gotten, more visibility of the content or the things they're putting out there by just trying, just putting yourself out there. And maybe it goes well and maybe it doesn't, but there's going to be a lesson that you're going to learn along the way. Embrace it, lean into that, and keep learning, applying, and keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So another question related to this is, does your paid content now need to be shorter to cater to that attention span of users? Because they use to shorter formats. And Netflix is feeling this. And that's why I think there's a growth in time spent in shorter video apps like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts, as opposed to longer format. People have sort of are not having that kind of attention span to go through a bigger format. True for cinemas as well.
Yeah, so I think because the attention span is getting shorter and shorter, pretty much it seems like every year, I would recommend, if you're thinking about creating content, whether it's a film, whether it's a course, whether it's just any other content, like let's not make something longer unless there's meaning and value for it, right? I don't know if people set out to make like long form content because they're like, oh, it needs to be long, but I think in their mind they're like, they need all of this, right? But like, do they really need all of this? Or again, it comes back to that why and what are you trying to solve? Because if what you're trying to solve can be addressed in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, then why are you doing a 30-minute program? Right? Like, what are we don't want to just add extra in there. We want to give people what they want. We want to share, not tell, through the distribution of that content, and then give yourself that time and space to create more. Because with content creation, course creation, it doesn't end. It's not like, ooh, I've created my course, I've solved the world's problems. Like, no, like you have to keep going. So, why not do 5-minute pieces of content as opposed to like 1 30-minute or 1 25-minute piece of content? And you're like, ugh, and you're mad, right? Like, it's better to pulse it out, keep going, and it gives the creator a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more creativity, as well as the audience or the community consuming it, to be like, I want more, I want more. And it's easier to drive that like impulse of like, I want more with shorter content than with longer content. Because We all been there where you're like, oh, finish already. Versus you don't feel like that after 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You're like, ooh, what? I want more. I want more. And that's what drives TikTok, right? You watch a video and you're like, what? More. And you just keep going in and in and in. If those videos were 10 minutes long, people would not hardly feel the same way around TikTok as they currently do.
Yeah, TikTok is the coffee of videos. Yeah.
You can't, you're like, you go down a yellow brick road, you don't know what happened. 2 hours later, you're like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can take the next questions. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of overthinking, procrastination when you start selling. So how do you break that barrier, cross that barrier, and just sort of execute? So there's thinking, there's strategy, and how do you cross that step, take the leap and start selling online?
Okay, so first you have to believe in yourself, right? And I say this because, and I know that's like very like, what? It's not salesy or businessy, but if you refuse to believe in yourself, you can never expect anyone to believe in you, ever. So I really want to encourage people to start from a space of, I am worthy of receiving support. I am worthy of making money, and I will and can, and I'm ready and willing and able to make money. Right? Like if you come from that positive mindset of like, I am doing this, I can do this, I am doing it, I will do it, then you can, you can plan. So the key with procrastination is there's always a driving force for why you're delaying something. It's a lack of self-belief, it's a lack of proper time management, it's a lack of support or resources, or it's actually a lack of know-how, right? Like you don't even know how to go about something, which I really struggle with that piece because I'm like, have you heard of Google? Thank you. Like, get your life. Get your life together. Because you literally, like, I am 36 years old and I love typing in questions on google.com pretty much every day. How do I do this? Like parenting, right? You do not know what to do when you bring that baby home. You've got to figure it out.
Yeah.
You've got to Nancy Drew this and figure this out. And so the same way with your career, the same way with your content, the same way with your business goals. So if you've kind of given yourself that roadmap of what is my course, what am I trying to solve? And now we're in that space of let's plan the action items, right? Don't prepare or kind of foresee the time to procrastinate. Like, no, don't plan for like, oh, okay, well, I can really do this in a month, so I'm going to give myself 2 months. No, give yourself deadlines, hard deadlines, not soft deadlines, hard deadlines of when you're going to accomplish each piece. And as you see that you're like, maybe you're slipping, or maybe, again, we're in holiday season here in the US, right? So you're like, oh, I don't have time to do this. I got to, decorate my house. Okay, well, just know the consequence of that, right? And be real with yourself of like, is it more important for me to work on this course, or should I put up or paint some pumpkins, right? Like, I mean, you gotta, know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then when it comes to selling, a lot of people struggle with, like, especially as a newbie, how do I price this, right? What is an appropriate amount? Again, you can do some contextual comparison of going on different platforms and looking at how other people price things. I mean, not only your platform, there are things like Coursera, Thinkific, right? There's a plethora of courses course platforms out there that will show you how they price things out. And then you based on the content, the time, the actions, the impact, give yourself a price that you feel is appropriate. And guess what? Nothing is final in life other than death. So you can always change it. If you go out with your course and you say you priced it at, I'm just going to throw a crazy number out there just because, $10,000, right? Cool. That's the price you put it. If you did that for 3 months and not one person took it, you have an understanding that people are not taking your course, right? And if that same $10,000 course you see across other platforms is listed anywhere between $50 to $200, you know that you've outpriced yourself in the market. You know that you are doing something a little bit different, right? Because course content is different than coaching. Absolutely, there are coaching programs like that, but yeah. So, I hope that helps. And again, just feel the confidence I also recommend people create a regimen of confidence building for themselves, because with this, as you build and put your stuff out there, there's going to be new things you learn, and that usually decreases our confidence as human beings. And so you have to constantly like go against that and try to listen to things like programs like this, read books, surround yourself with people that actually support you, that actually motivate you, and continue to combat, as you have the ups and downs along this journey. Because along with creating a course, starting a business, you're going to fall, you're going to falter. It's a part of the process. Again, pick yourself up, be grateful for the learning, and keep moving.
Absolutely. Yeah. Take the first steps, have confidence. You mentioned you'll try new things, you will fail and succeed multiple times, and also have a schedule, and you can launch multiple times until you're successful.
Oh God, yeah. Nothing's
Yeah,
final.
yeah. And next, we can take our next question. Yeah, I think you touched upon pricing. How do you sort of you look at your peers, you look at competition, you see what's there in the market, you gauge an interest of what people are ready to pay for a particular kind of course or a coaching session. Then you decide, how do you test out? So what are the limits? So do you go for a large number of users to test your service initially or test your course initially, or you would want few members who are very actively engaging with you, so you could price them higher? So how do you think about it? Is volume more important, or
to see kind of, do you play around, or do you stick to a number? So I think, as fun and easy as it is to just stick to a number, unfortunately, life and business doesn't really work that way. And as we see in the store, right? One week something is this, and another week it's different. And I think you have to understand that that's just the world. Once you understand the rules of engagement, you have to play the game, right? And so I definitely say, if you have a cohort already like in your pocket where it's maybe 5 people or 10 people, start with those people, right? These are the people who've been ride or die with you. Absolutely work with them. And then based on that, if you're going to put up like a landing page, and you're trying to attract new people, and you're going to run ads against that landing page, and you're going to try to bring in more people, that based on what you've worked with your immediate community already with you, you can try to go up or down contextually based on like what you're seeing. So for instance, if your same course or a similar course to yours is 25% more on other platforms that are in similar spaces to yours, maybe then on the landing page where you're trying to attract new people, maybe you go up 25%, maybe you go up 30%, right? Like you can do it in context to what you're seeing, and then give yourself a time for, if it's a 30-day offering, then do that offering for 30 days. And based on what you see, you can even survey, if you've asked enough questions to be like, can we be in touch with you after, whether, that type of stuff, then you can even go back to the new people that you've engaged with and see if they can give you some insight. But a lot of times when we're making decisions, we want to make sure that they're data-driven decisions, right? So whatever you're doing, however you're engaging with people, try to get the consent to contact them so that you can try to hear from them, because the more that you hear from people, the more, and people are more willing to talk more now than ever, right? Everyone has their soapbox. They're like, listen, and they're out here trying to share their story and tell you how you're getting it wrong 5 days till sundown, and so take advantage of that. Like, people are chattier more than ever. People want to give comments. People want to, up and down things all the time. So like, hear from them. So I would just encourage you, as you're testing, make sure you're trying to survey along with the test, so that you can see, 80% of people like this, didn't like this. And that way you can adjust accordingly. We don't want to be making business decisions or course creation decisions around like just your gut feeling, because as much as fun as it's like, well, I think it should be this way. Well, are you your audience, right? Are you paying your course? No, you're asking for other people to pay for your course. You're asking for other people to do what X, Y, Z. So have you found out from them what they want, what they're looking for? If you're not, then it's a really missed opportunity, and you're going to be misaligned with your audience and what you want to do.
Absolutely. I think data-driven decision making is more important than your bias or your ego in sort of setting the price. I think we can take the next one. Yeah, I think this is another interesting one. Yeah, so do you create your own courses, or do you create the entire experience for users versus just a course? So take up a platform, set that up, versus you want to build your own community, and in a longer term, build a community which is engaging and which can rally behind you on your business front as well. So some other platform doesn't stop access, or you have a way to communicate with them directly. So how do you think about it, and where should we start from day one? I think, if should we take the third party platform, or on a day one we build it on our own website or blog or a platform? So how do you think about that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Time is always limited, right? We we only have 24 hours a day, and X amount has to be slept, X amount, you got to take care of self and family and work. And so, I want people to understand your life is limited time. There's not more time than ever to think about that concept. So actually, I would argue or advocate it's not or, it's actually and. I would say it's a little bit of both, because like I said, the problem with courses is that it's not one and done. There's an opportunity for like 2.0, 3.0 of existing courses. There's also an opportunity to create more content, especially if there's more confusion or more ambiguity within the spaces you're operating, to say, hey, I can clarify this for you. Hey, I can give you the tips that you need. So you're always going to be on a grind of creating more courses. But, the point around building community, that also isn't one and done. You don't just say, okay, guys, like, okay, we're here in this Facebook group, or we're here on our, our community platform, and, I'm just going to post maybe once a day. Nope. Unfortunately, it's a grind both ways. But what I would say is you want to actually time it where you are, again, collecting that survey data on an ongoing, a part of your engagement with your community needs to be getting them to talk to you, right? So as they're continuing to communicate with you, that's when you're able to then kind of map out, well, based on my community, right, it looks like maybe they're looking for a course maybe 2 to 3 times a year. And then you can orient yourself accordingly. Some communities, maybe a new course a year works. I mean, it's going to depend on your space. It's going to depend on the content you're making, also the availability of your community and why they're looking for the content or what's next. But yeah, I would argue you technically have to work on both work streams at once.
Yeah, I think get started with one platform, then actually build your way to up your own sort of platform to interact with the audience. I think that would be a sane strategy. I think next question is something we can take up. I'm a complete beginner willing to get into the world of online teaching and courses. Needless to say, I don't have an email list nor existing audience. How do you get started? So if you're bare bones, if you don't, you only have the ability to sort of create a course, or even not that, how do you get started? What are the first steps, I think?
Yeah, so the first step is that branding piece, right? Branding 101. So it's absolutely okay to get started with nothing, right? How do we come into this world? Naked and crying, right? Yeah. Like we come in with nothing. We don't even speak the language of choice, right? So everyone starts as a beginner in something in their life before they're able to build. So the first step really is creating that footprint online and in person for who you are. So making sure that you're going by the name of choice for yourself. You have an easy title for yourself. What are you, right? So even if you're beginning, before you can say you're a content creator, well, what are you? What kind of professional? What is your career rate? All of those things. And then Pick the platforms of choice that you need to build that online footprint to be able to eventually build and develop a community. So do you need to be on Facebook? Do you need to be on LinkedIn? Do you need to be on meetup.com? Do you need to be on TikTok? Do you need to be on IG, on YouTube, right? Any of the spaces, the online social spaces, figure out which platform is going to deliver a community building opportunity for yourself. And that's the online component. Then the other component of it is the in-person, right? I know it's like, what, in person? Yes, honey. You have got to get out in the world and you've got to do some networking. You got to join some groups. And it's not always just the traditional networking of like, let me go to a business conference or a specific group for the space that say you want to be you want to do like tutoring content or like, so I'm going to go to teaching stuff. Okay, there's that. But there's also like your gym class. And there's also, I don't know, like when you go food shopping or when you're at the mall, you can network anywhere and any space of this world and any aspect of your life. So what do you have to do though? You have to make sure you're consistent. How are you introducing yourself? That little 60-second elevator pitch or 30-second, however you want to do it. You got to make sure that you're consistent in who you say you are in this world, online and in person. And then it's a grind, right? It's my life motto is to meet someone new and to learn something new every single day. And I can do that. And I have done that for a very long, many, many years because of the internet, right? Like you can network with people like on LinkedIn. I started with very few followers. I'm over like 26 or 27,000 folks because I constantly am engaging. I'm constantly adding people. I'm constantly connecting with different folks. And that has led to business opportunities. That has led to me being able to do and be a part of speaking engagements just by me putting yourself out. So the phrase of like, if you build it, they will come 1,000%. You are your own Rome, right? Like you are your own mission and ship. And so you've just got to get out there in the world. And again, it doesn't matter if you're starting from scratch. It's about what you say and what you do and how consistent you are. Again, it's like, oh, I'm going to network on Tuesday. Good for you. There's 7 days a week. Like, what are you know what I mean? Like you have to be persistent, consistent, dedicated, and then learn. Because I definitely remember when I started kind of putting myself out there, how I introduced myself and the level of energy I brought to things, very different than where I am years later. So you'll learn and you'll get better at it, but you got to just get started.
No, absolutely. I think creating an identity for you on an online world is very important. Then finding your comfort level in the world and building your personality around it or showcasing your personality around it is super important. Yeah. I think we have questions every course creator should be asking themselves. I think these are basically some guidelines or some sort of questions. So what is important? Do you have an objective? You have an overall strategy for your users? You segment the users you want to go after, and you sort of grow big in that. So focusing on a niche and having objectives for users, or first you grow big, and then I think as you grow, you find what is right for you, and then sort of be a perfectionist in one sort of segment. So go big at first, or sort of cater to a broader audience, or having a niche first. What is the right way?
So we can't solve for everything at once. I think being a bit more of a specialist is going to help for you to like in the initial stages of getting started, right? Because it's also a little bit too daunting to say, well, I'm going to create a course for everyone. Well, not everyone's going to be interested, right? But for people who don't have a job, they will really be interested in a course that's related to, again, a resume, to interviewing, to right, like specific genres is going to drive certain attention. And as you start, especially when you're getting started, come within that specialty. And then as you get more comfortable, as you've, kind of developed some rhythm behind what you're doing, then I think you can be a little bit more generalist. But I think starting off generalist is too daunting, and you're more likely to not do it than if you come in a little bit more specialized. And then again, in your course, are you surveying your course takers? Are you asking for their feedback at it throughout it, as well as the end of like, if you could pick the next course to take with me, right? You can put in some more general topics and then more specific topics, see where people land, and they will tell you. Like I said, people will tell you. They will tell you, honey, how they want to operate and what they want to do. And then it's up to you. Like I said, when you know the rules of engagement, play the game. And then here you go.
Yeah, but I think people will tell you if they like you or love you or hate you, hate your content, not specific you. I think, how do you take feedbacks when everyone's talking? How do you listen? So, and what are the right things to look for? How do you, with all the noise going on, filter out the right kind of feedback for your sort of course business? It works for everything. Yeah.
Great question. Yeah. So I would say that people like to want to feel special in this world. A lot of people don't have anyone telling them that they're great at something, or that they are even good, or that they're even wanted, right? And it's a sad reality, but that's just the world we live in, especially when you go global. Because America, right? Like in America, we're more likely to be like, what are your affirmations for the day? But in certain, like my family's from Jamaica, my parents were not affirmed at anything growing up. Same with me. Like I recently realized in my 30s, I was like, my parents have never asked me if I'm happy ever, right? Like, and that's a sad reality of life. And that's actually more realistic globally than it is, say, in the United States. So I would suggest that, if you really want your audience or your course content takers to give you feedback in a meaningful way, then what are you giving for them, right? So in addition to kind of short form surveys that you can pump out to them or push out to them, you can also, if you have the time, and I know it's hard, but if you have the time to maybe book like a 15-minute feedback session where they can talk to you, and you could say, thank you for your time. I want to give you a free 30-minute, 20-minute coaching session, right? Where you can, based on what you've learned here, we can take it and personalize it for you. I want to make sure that you have what you need to be successful, right? When you frame it within the lens of, I am dedicated to your success, to making sure that you feel good, that's when people are like, well, okay, I'll take that, right? Like, and again, that's ego, right? You have to give to, in life, it's a give and a take, right? You can't put stuff out and be like, give me all the things, and you aren't giving them anything, so I would argue that that's probably if you go with a kind of a white glove service approach to it, then you'll be able to really get their feedback in a way that is going to be probably more honest and authentic than if it was just a short form survey of, did you enjoy this? Would you take this again? Would you recommend it to your friends? 1 out of 10 star rating. Like, a little bit more gets you much further along.
Got it. Putting your best foot forward and being authentic, I think, is important initially to align with the audience, and also getting to know them better. I think we'll open it up for some questions if the audience has any. And if anyone has a question, they can come on video and ask the question, or just type in there. I'll read it out for a speaker.
Awesome. Well, thank you for everyone being here. It's always really nice to start my day sharing content and my 2 cents of advice, which I hope is really helpful. I hope people.
It was really helpful for me, and I'm assuming it will be for everyone. Something.
Thank you.
Something to learn and think about at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait till my son is older, because it's like, I'm already like now telling him like, how are you saying things? Why? And are you happy? Like, I'm obsessed with his happiness, just because I'm like, no one cares. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of content creator he is. Because he
I
has,
think there's a problem with people of color face. I think everywhere
mm,
in the world, I guess,
mm,
our parents are not born with the instinct to sort of think about, showcase affection, ask these kind of
mm,
questions. It
mm,
doesn't mean they don't
absolutely.
love us, but I think that's
Yeah.
how they're busy with other stuff, and it's been passed on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you're surviving, it's really hard to operate in a space of thriving, right? And that's when you come from a third world country, or you come from a space where you don't have enough, you don't have the luxury of tapping into, well, how are you having, what mindfulness practice did we do today? Like, get out of here. You're trying to find food to eat, like
Yeah.
clean water to drink, right? So I get it and I appreciate, and I wouldn't be the woman I am today if
Yeah.
my parents weren't as hard and as rough and tough as they were. But you have to break generational curses, right? And so the next stage of evolution, hopefully within my family, is the opportunity for me to take those lessons of like perform, produce, be effective, be impactful, but then also, how are you feeling? Let's talk about our feelings, right? And adding that extra, niceties. But
Yeah.
yeah, any questions, y'all? Don't be shy. Put it in the chat if you don't want to come on video.
Sure. Sneha, if you have any questions on LinkedIn, you can post it here. We would be running it on YouTube as well, and then on our
Awesome.
community internally. So people are at different times active. It's evening here where I'm in my time zone, and it's early, I guess, in the West and the Western part. I think the people in the Eastern time zone are just waking up, and I think,
I know. You guys
yeah.
are like, time to go to bed, and I'm amping up. And I'm like, let's go. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So again, we did touch upon it. So what are
Mhm,
the current platforms you use to host your courses, and is there something
mhm.
that's lacking in the current platform?
Yeah,
Because
I mean, like I said, my favorite so far is like I like Listenable. I'm on. I create content around on Bookboon,
okay,
which is like a kind of it's a subscription platform dedicated to where you have like audio, like expert talks, as well as books, as well as virtual workshops that they're starting. So that's a really cool space that I have a couple of published books and different expert audio talks that I've done on there. And so the I mean, what they're lacking. So I would say probably like some type of, and I'm not like the most technologically advanced person, but I would say
yeah,
is, how sometimes I find that when you create content on one space, it would be cool if you could find a way to like miniature, like minimize some of the content and like automatically share it or connect it to some of the social platforms, right? So for
got
instance,
it.
if you wanted to share so on YouTube has a thing where you can do a what's that called? It's like a snapshot video of an existing video. It'd be
Got it.
cool to, if course platforms, you could do like a snapshot of it and you could just share it directly onto Facebook, onto YouTube, and then that way you could do short form sharing
Got
onto
it.
some of these social places. And then that way it would be an easier integration of where people are seeing the value. Again, more showing, less telling, because yeah, I can tell you to take my course all day long. You're
Yeah.
not going to care, right? But if you see me in action, right? If you see the value of what I'm trying to deliver to you, you're more likely to be like, I want more. I want to see more of this. So I feel like that is a missing component. Also, some course platforms only allow their learners to like type in their responses. Some people, maybe typing isn't people have different abilities in this life,
Yeah.
and we want to be inclusive and we want to think about all folks taking things, right? So like, are we, when we're building our courses, and self-included, I have to do a better job of this as well, are we making it accessible for all differently abled people, right? So can blind people, can deaf people, can all people of different abilities also access our content the same way as different folks can, right? And so you want to, folks need to think about that when they build platforms for content creators, because it's like you want to be able to reach, because maybe like, for instance, it's been really nice actually in the last couple of years to see more deaf oriented content, and so for the deaf people, because they go to movies and again, it's like, unless there's a captions, they don't understand what's happening, right?
Exactly.
So how are we making sure that that's a standard, not the exception, right? Because all people of all different abilities have a right to consume the same content. We just got to make sure we're doing what we need to do. And like I said, I can do a better job of that, as well as I think as, just the platform themselves can do a better job of being a little bit more inclusive. So that's one thing. And then also, actually, and then when you think about that as well, I'm here in the US, but I would love for platforms, if I'm creating content, that it's really easy to click a button and say, this is in English, but now I want it in Portuguese. Now I want it in Hindi. Now I want it in, Spanish. Now I want it in Mandarin, right? Like, could we make it, again, more accessible from a global perspective? Because especially in the US, we're so US centric, right? Like it's US, US, US. But hello, it's planet Earth is more than just the United States. So, how are we making sure that we're connecting on a global scale? Because there's, it's like for our podcast, I have a lot of people like in India or internationally that tune into our episodes. And I love that. Love that. And I want to do more of that. I want to make sure that, again, my content, my voice, my messaging is reaching beyond the lands of the United States, but that I'm globally able to empower and uplift people.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the first point you touched on was, can we create shorter forms of content we already have and use them as the way to attract audience on these platforms? Automatically this can be done. And again, as internet is penetrating across the world, we would want localization of content. So, and even inclusivity, as you mentioned, reaching out to people who are disabled in a way and are less fortunate than us. And so I think if we don't have any questions, we would try to wrap it up. I think Natasha has a long day ahead, and so any closing thoughts, anything you missed out?
So thank you again for watching this here and joining me live. Thank you if you watch this on the replay. Really appreciate your time and attention. I know that that's, again, time is the most important asset because you'll never be able to get it back. So you giving me time is the most highest regard for respect that you could give a person. So thank you very much. Secondly, I encourage you, if you've never created a course, let this be the sign to you that this is the time and opportunity and space for you to do this for yourself. It's a way to generate more money for you and your household, but it's also a way for creative expression. And there's not enough opportunities in life for us to be able to creatively express ourselves. So definitely take this as an opportunity to say, hey, I can teach people, I can have fun, I can learn, and I can also be creative in how I create my content and put it out there with the world. So do that. And then also, I would encourage you to, if you're having questions, don't let that hold you back. Ask the questions, get the answers. And even if you go and do it and it's not the best, quote unquote, who cares? At least you did something. Celebrate your victories along the way and keep going forward. You are the biggest advocate for yourself, and you can also be the biggest block and deterrent for yourself. So stop standing in your way. The time is now. Go out there, share your thoughts, share your expertise, share wisdom that's going to make this world a better place, and we're all going to be better for it. So thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to get in touch with me, my podcast is wokenfree.com, WOKENFREE.com. You can also check out my blog and other content I build that's around like career and accountability and lifestyle on dressingroom8.com. And then of course, find me on LinkedIn. I always, like I said, I want to meet new people and learn something new every single day. So I hope that you're able to do that. You're able to join me on that journey and connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll share the link of your profile as well.
Perfect.
People can connect with you. And it was a pleasure hosting you in this session. And lots to learn and it's great how you organize your day as well as the work you've done. I saw the number of podcasts on Spotify and
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, never stop.
We don't have soap operas running for that long.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that we've never missed a week. I mean, I've gone to the hospital and I've still made sure I've had to get my episode out. So that, yeah, we are dedicated, and it's been a wonderful experience for me and my husband. And I look forward to many, many more years of content creation and just sharing our wisdom and our words, and hopefully making you laugh and learn along the way.
Sure, please do check it out. I'll also tune it on Spotify or other platforms I can get my hands on. And love to learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks, Natasha, again.
Yep.